Hello everyone and welcome to the Smashi Business Show. Today is Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. I'm Abdul Majid Awan.
And I'm Ward Ahmed, and we've got a packed show for you today. Firstly, we're going to be discussing how the UK and their allies have sanctioned two Israeli ministers for allegedly inciting violence against Palestinians. Secondly, we're going to discuss, and this is big, Emirati billionaire Khalaf Al-Habtoor is going to lead a delegation to Syria for more investment talks. And thirdly, Nigeria's $5 billion Aramco loan has been stalled due to a drop in oil prices. And finally, the BCG boss has said sorry and is going to quit the controversial Gaza aid project that is backed by Israel.
The very first story is very big, to be honest, on the international scale, on the financial scale, on the geopolitical scale. Britain and 4 allied nations have imposed sanctions on 2 far-right Israeli ministers, Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, accusing them of inciting violence against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. The allies are Canada, Australia, New Zealand and Norway. They joined the UK in freezing the ministers' assets and issuing travel bans. Both ministers are settlers in the West Bank and serve as Israel's national security and finance ministers.
So the joint statement by the 5 nations cited extremist violence and serious abuses of Palestinian human rights, placing responsibility squarely on Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. Now, British Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the move is about holding those responsible for escalating the tensions and undermining peace efforts to account.
Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar called the sanctions outrageous and said a special cabinet meeting would be held to determine Israel's official response, speaking from the inauguration of a new West Bank settlement. Very sad. Smotrich dismissed the move with contempt and vowed to continue settlement expansion.
So the U.S. took a different stance condemning the sanctions. So Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the move won't help achieve a ceasefire in Gaza or secure the return of Israeli hostages. Rubio emphasized that Hamas remains the enemy and rejected any comparison between Israeli ministers and militant groups.
And meanwhile, London has suspended free trade talks with Israel over what is called egregious policies in Gaza and the West Bank. According to Gaza health authorities, over 54,000 Palestinians have been killed, with the territory left in ruins due to the genocide that is being carried out in Gaza, in Palestine, by Israel. It's the very first, one of the big first moves which has finally targeted personalities which we've seen over social media saying stuff that I can't even imagine someone saying online.
Where have you read it, Majid? What these two characters are specifically saying?
Whenever you see anything, you scroll through Instagram, TikTok, anything, and whenever there's a very badly worded, bad intention, and always blaming Hamas, killing babies, children, women, everyone, humanitarian workers, UN agency workers, aid groups, NGO people. Whenever you see someone saying something bad, it's always these two people. So it's weird that they're given a free rein over all the stuff they say. And I'll just give you the Piers Morgan example because that's the best example. I think at the start of all of this, he was the most staunch supporter, saying Israel's self-defense is legal. They can do everything, and now you see even a staunch supporter like him has changed the direction, and he's questioning people on his show, Israeli ministers, Israeli information ministers, foreign ministers, and he's asking them. I remember one clip, and it was a very nice logical argument that he was presenting, which we didn't thought was possible at the start of all of this. And he was like, if you're targeting Hamas terrorists that you say, and you know how many you have killed, how do you not know the civilian casualties? Because if you're doing targeted attacks and you're very precisely targeting Hamas leaders and all that, then how do you not know what was the collateral damage when you targeted them? And if they're very specifically targeted attacks, why are civilians dying? So that means either Israel doesn't know, they're just randomly bombing places and just claiming falsely that they've killed Hamas leaders, or they know the damage that they've done to children. You can go on like for 1 hour bringing testimonies, Canadian doctors, British doctors who've served there under UN in Gaza, the stories that they tell you of babies with cut legs and all that. It's very hard to listen to even. And imagine those people are going through it. So, and the Israeli version is we don't care as long as Hamas is
Wait,
there, we don't
Majid,
care, right?
Check this out. So basically, that is why the sudden noise came. So Ben Giver, this is something that he was saying in a speech. He was like, "I am not a sheep. If there is a ceasefire in Gaza, we will leave the government. I will not allow the signing of an agreement that will lead to the victory of Hamas."
And it's not even Hamas's victory. See, a ceasefire, I know it's a business show and we're discussing it, because we have to give context for why finally 4 or 5 countries have taken a stance on it. A lot of countries we know since October 7, as soon as it happened, Ireland, one of the countries, I love those people. Our owner is also Irish, but Irish people from the start have been very against all the killing of children, women, and like just killing civilians for no reasons. But now these 4 countries have joined the group. France, to be honest, in the European part, if you go, France has taken a very nice stance. I think there is I was reading a headline yesterday, but I didn't read the summit that is happening, but there is a summit where French Prime Minister Emmanuel Macron, basically, he is going to announce that France now officially recognizes the Palestinian state. So all these things are happening. The world is finally coming to its senses. Again, going back to all the social media videos that you see, British ministers who are conservatives, so British ministers, conservatives are usually considered on the side of Israel, but British conservative ministers are standing up in their House of Commons and their parliaments, and they're saying that we were wrong in the start.
I know, it's really
Remember?
powerful. Like just very recently, London suspended free trade talks with Israel. But Majid, it actually gets worse. There's a video of this guy, Ben Giver. So Ben is like, I will not allow humanitarian aid into Hamas. Not even into Gaza, not even to the Palestinian people, but to Hamas. We overcame the pharaohs. We will overcome this too. I mean, I honestly get it. This is inciting violence because, it's just that term Hamas. It's an interesting propaganda term. It really is.
But overall, the idea is that these 5 nations, whatever assets these 2 people hold in those countries, now those assets are frozen, they can't take it out. It's the same which happened to Russian Roman Abramovich. He was one of the biggest examples because he owned a club in the UK, Chelsea to name it, and his assets were frozen. He was forced to sell Chelsea. He did sell Chelsea eventually then, and we had new owners, Todd Bowley and all the group that came with him. So finally we're seeing the response from the international community. As long as financial sanctions and travel bans and all these things are concerned. The response that they had for Russia as soon as Russia attacked Ukraine, finally the international community is showing that response, although at a minimal level, but that kind of response to Israel and its ministers as well.
No, but you know what?
It's a good sign.
You know what though, Majid? Maybe like publicly and considering like countries that, what Israel is doing is not actually getting the response that it does deserve. But at a human level, people, one-to-one, people don't want to work with Israel. Like that's, I saw something somewhere that allegedly, through documents revealed by Meta, that customers don't want to work with Israeli companies. And I think that at its heart is telling you that they're not just going to be affected by their assets being frozen abroad. Their very economy is going to suffer. I remember I was telling Majid about this video that I saw in Al-Arabiya, and it was Israeli citizens who are standing in like really long lines for aid. Now I'm not saying to feel empathy for them because they clearly look well off than the Palestinians who are not receiving any aid whatsoever. But you can tell that their economy is struggling. And I remember we even covered this piece that a lot of high-skilled Israeli people are leaving Israel and they are finding jobs elsewhere. They're not exactly happy with what their government is doing.
And even the budget that they passed this year, they extended it to the last week, because if you don't pass the budget by March of the next year, the government dissolves. So they pushed it to the last point, and I think 51 point something was the majority by which the budget was passed, because it had so much money going into all the things that they're doing in, to be honest, in Lebanon, in Syria to an extent, and the fringes, they're still working. Obviously, it gets dug deeper when you look at Palestine, what they're doing there. So they're still doing that. They're still trying to just make a clash, just come up with something for a reason to invade here and shoot there and drop bombs there. So their economy is, to be honest, very
shoot
bad.
Shoot there and drop bombs there.
All the rating agencies in the world, all of them have downgraded their rating, which means if they take money from any bank in the world, they will pay more percentage over it. So all these things are happening to them, and I think the logic behind all this is to keep the main guy, Netanyahu, in place. Because if you see BB Files, it's a documentary on...
BB Files.
I don't remember, OSN Plus or Disney, but you see BB Files, and to be honest, that documentary makes sense why he's doing it. He's trying to win legitimacy. This is his push to win legitimacy, because the country is now divided, clearly divided.
You know what, Majid? This time, Netanyahu, it does not look like he's going to get Trump's support. And you know why? We saw it. We saw it in the Gulf tour. Trump came here. I mean, he had Salman pledging him $6 billion and a promise of it to be higher to $1 trillion.
$600 billion.
It's
okay. You said $6 billion.
It was $600 billion, and then the promise of that being higher to $1 trillion in his speech in the summit, and then we saw it in Qatar. They promised him deals of $1.2 trillion in the UAE. Over $1 trillion. So now that America is going to stand strong with all of this capital from the backing of the Gulf, why would he need Israel?
So it's basic sense, right? The people who are giving you money, who are investing in your country to help you make America great again, he will listen to them. Israel is actually
and he did listen to them
with
the sanctions that we saw were finally lifted off of Syria after a decade. So they're cornered. They're definitely cornered, and it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen.
With money and all the influence right now that is centered in Middle East, to be honest, there is a chance that this whole genocide will be stopped when, how, what, all the questions that are there, they're still there. We have the Arab plan in place. As soon as there is a ceasefire or something.
I have not heard an update on that whatsoever. Basically, what Majid is referring to is that in Cairo, they came up with this emergency summit. They called in everyone from all the Arab countries in the MENA region, and they basically created this $53 billion reconstruction plan in 3 phases. I remember in the reports that I read, it basically said that whether they're going to receive this money and when and from who has not been confirmed yet, since these countries are also very hesitant to provide that money because, and rightfully so. So, we're going to see if we're going to get an update on that. The EU did back the project.
The only update I remember, very vaguely remember, one of the countries out of all, I think did promise I don't remember exactly, but it was in millions that I remember. So they, Iraq, when they had Arab something meeting recently, Iraq pledged some millions, and Iraq is not a very prosperous country right now. They're also suffering, but they pledged some money. So that was the only thing I remember vaguely, any update on it. But I think as soon as the ceasefire happens, then that plan can kick in, because you can't construct if someone is already deconstructing it. Every day they're bombing the place. You can't go in and start reconstruction process if Israel doesn't stop. So a very long context of this story is that finally 2 ministers have been, their assets have been frozen, and whatever they hold in UK, Australia, New Zealand, the other 2 countries, they can't take anything out. So it's going to be a good move. I think international community will follow it. And since Word mentioned Syria, let's move on to the next story, which is Dubai's Al-Habtoor group is sending a high-level delegation to one of the countries which has finally come out of the trenches. They've finally come out of problems and they're on the path to recovery, Syria. And the delegation will be led by Chairman Khalaf Ahmad Al-Habtoor, Word's favorite personality nowadays, and to explore potential investment opportunities. The visit, set to take place in the coming days, reflects the group's strategic interest in supporting Syria's economic recovery and forming partnerships with the new transitional government under Ahmad al-Shara.
So in a statement, Al-Habtoor Group said the trip stems from a firm belief in Syria's future potential and the vital role of public-private partnerships in rebuilding the country. Now, this visit is basically aligning with the group's broader regional strategy to explore untapped markets and contribute to post-crisis reconstruction efforts.
And Syria's transitional government, now led by President Ahmad al-Shara, has been introducing economic reforms aimed at attracting foreign investment. These include privatization initiatives, more relaxed trade policies, a push for infrastructure development, all these measures that could create opportunities for regional investors like Al-Habtoor Group.
So speaking ahead of the visit, Al-Habtoor said Syria is a nation rich in culture, history, and talent. He added that the group is eager to support the country's revival through projects that generate employment and stimulate long-term growth.
And Al-Habtoor Group, which operates across hospitality, real estate, and automotive sectors, recently withdrew from Lebanon due to instability. We remember that whole fiasco where Khalaf Ahmad Al-Habtoor clearly said that he doesn't want to do anything with Lebanon. And the pivot towards Syria suggests a renewed focus on high-impact strategic investments in recovering economies across the region.
No, really, honestly, the pivot towards Syria is just Al-Habtoor being extremely smart and realizing that if he does not, it's not good businessman. It's not just that, Majid, but you also have to look at the other players. You have Qatar who is swooping in. You have Saudi that is swooping in. They paid off their $15 million World Bank debt, and then they're going to finance their salaries. So, you know, I think that from Khalaf Al-Habtoor, this is a very strategic decision in the sense of, you know, where has the UAE been in all of this? This is my chance as a really good businessman to step in and make the most out of this opportunity as these other nations have to establish a presence for the UAE in Syria. And we also need to add that just very recently, Al-Habtoor, in this like very famous video on X on Smashi Business, he was like, my hotel in Lebanon, we're gonna break it down, we're gonna take parts of it, and we're gonna ship it. We're gonna ship it back.
And a lot of people said it's the next stop is Syria for it. He clearly didn't say it, but all the people who covered the story were like, because he's so bullish on Syria, 100% that Al-Habtoor Palace or hotel is going to Syria, right?
No, Majid, this is a beautiful performance, and I'll tell you why. Because just like 1 week ago, I was watching that interview with him, and I believe her name is Nawal Badawi. I was watching that interview, and he was basically saying, she was like, oh, you know, you're really keen to invest in Syria. He's like, no, I am not interested in investing in Syria, but I see the potential there. Remember that video? This was like 1 week ago or something. And now we're hearing about an entire delegation marching together on their way to Syria. Look, this is honestly, this is a really great marketing move. I don't think he wants to leave Lebanon. My theory here is that like the entire Lebanese population that has been screaming for so long about their frozen money in the banks, his money probably got frozen too.
Also.
And the government probably did not give it back. So that is his way of, I think, threatening them and making them realize I can pack my stuff up. The same way that I'm all over the world. I'm in America, I'm in London, I have world-class hotels. I don't need to stay in Lebanon. So I think that's what it is. And I truly do believe he will stay in Lebanon and they will give him his money back because he invested $1 billion there.
Yeah, and as soon the other day he was praising Prince Al-Walid bin Talal. It was a long post about him. We did a story on it. If you want to see what he said, you can go to Smashi Business Socials. The funny thing is that Al-Walid bin Talal, as soon as you remember, he said, I'm pulling out of Lebanon. Al-Walid bin Talal said that no, Four Seasons will reopen in Lebanon. So it's very interesting. He praises a guy who's like a part of the reconstruction effort in Lebanon, and he is leaving. So it's your point. To be honest, your theory is nearly making sense because he is trying to pressure them to leave, like let him take his money out and maybe stay there, but at least go away or maybe take that money and invest somewhere else, make money off money. But yeah, coming back to Syria, I saw a very nice summary by the National on since Ahmed al-Shara became president, what deals they have gotten. And on our social post, we made a small graph on it. So March 17, 2025, they got two grants plus loans and humanitarian aid. So EU donors, there was a conference happening and all the EU donors, they pledged 5.8 billion euros and 300 million was a loan as humanitarian aid promised by Germany. The thing with this is that all this money is not directly going to Ahmed al-Shara or the Syrian government. It will go through UN agencies and it will be given to them and they will help the reconstruction process. Then there's USA. They lifted the sanctions and talks have started and obviously they'll start trading with them. There was the 7 billion project that Word did the story on. It's a US, Qatar and Turkey consortium. It's a combination of three companies from these three countries and it's an energy deal. So it's a $7 billion project. So that money will also flow into Syria. And lastly, there was a Gulf states plus international players. It was infrastructure grants. So basically the whole reconstruction process, there's no money attached to it. But the Gulf, some countries, I don't know because there was no details of the countries, it's just said that Gulf countries and some international players, they will fund the reconstruction in Syria. So it's very nice that people have placed their faith in Ahmed al-Shara. The only question is, will he live up to it?
I don't know if Syrians have, but
Syrians, yeah, whenever the election happens, whenever there is a referendum, whenever there is something where they're told or asked to vote, then we'll actually know the Syrian well. But right now, he was part of the rebel forces which overthrew Bashar al-Assad and ended his like 13, 14-year reign of terror. But now he is there. He has a chance to break the cycle of dictatorships, of like one man getting a lot of power and not being the bad guy. So next story, we'll move on from this, and it's now we're going to Africa. So Nigeria has a
honestly, I'm really craving a safari trip right now.
Dubai Safari is closed, otherwise Dubai Safari is a very good
I want to
place.
be in
They have
Nairobi
a
right now,
whole safari ride. But Nigeria's plan for a record 5 billion oil-backed loan from Saudi Aramco have hit a delay, according to Reuters sources. The deal, which would mark Nigeria's largest oil-backed financing and Aramco's biggest engagement of this kind in the country, has been stalled due to falling global crude oil prices.
So talks for the loan began after Nigerian President Bola Tinubu met Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at the Saudi African Summit in Riyadh last November. But since January, Brent crude has dropped nearly 20%, falling from over $82 to around $65 per barrel. That's made the deal riskier, requiring Nigeria to pledge more oil to back the financing, straining its already pressured production capacity.
And Nigeria's oil production has been hampered by years of underinvestment. Currently, the country uses roughly 300,000 barrels per day to service existing oil-backed loans. The new loan would demand at least 100,000 barrels per day more. So they will have to up the capacity to 400,000 barrels per day. This raises concerns among Gulf and African lenders over the reliability of oil cargo deliveries.
Now, the loan is part of a broader push by President Tinubu, who is seeking $21.5 billion in foreign borrowing to fund Nigeria's budget. But in April, production fell short, just under 1.5 million barrels per day, well below the 2 million BPD target.
And to salvage the deal, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation is working to raise output, with Tinubu ordering cuts to production costs. If the loan proceeds, Nigerian trading firm Oando is expected to handle physical oil offtake operations. Again, it's a very interesting story because of the power play. Saudi Arabia wanted to give them oil or take oil from them on $5 billion. The problem is oil prices fell, and oil prices literally have not caused a problem for Nigeria only. It's a problem for Saudi Arabia only. All their budgets, all their money that they're putting into the grand projects,
like NEOM,
it's somehow related to oil, because the money that they make from them, they put it into the projects. So now they've like calmed down. They want private investment into all those projects. That is why a lot of private companies, private investors are being attracted. U.S. Trump's trip, first ever foreign trip after his second term as president to Saudi Arabia, gave a lot of confidence to Saudi Arabia and the investors. And I hope and I think that a lot of people will come and invest in New York.
And you know, Majid, with this story, what I also find very interesting is if you know Africa, then you'd know that Nigeria, it's the richest nation in Africa. Then after that comes South Africa and Egypt. They are the richest nations in Africa. And by the way, from all the Gulf countries, the country that is investing the most in Africa from the Gulf is the UAE.
Yeah.
It was in the, I believe at the end of last year, it was reported by the Washington Post. So, you know, I think with this, with this entire project, it's just signifying to me that these Gulf countries are trying to diversify by making sure that they have foreign investments and foreign investments in Africa. So it'll be interesting to see what more they're going to do in the future.
It's nearly $45 billion that the UAE plans to invest. The pledge was made last year because I remember it not from here also. I was working with a company where we used to attract African companies, so we were doing some research for some video, and it was 45 billion that the UAE has pledged over the next 5 years. So if it was 2024, so yeah, by 2029, they will invest that much amount into solar projects, into infrastructure projects, into whatever like market is there. So again, yeah, UAE has an investment anywhere there is a possibility. And to be honest, what I've realized over the years, a lot of these investments, when you talk about them, and a lot of people who invest in Africa, they get a lot of feedback, bad feedback, that, oh, they're trying to exploit Africa and they're doing this and they're doing that. The good thing that I've seen about Saudi and UAE, and Qatar hasn't gone a lot in Africa, but still, whatever these big three from the Middle East are doing, they always see and go into markets which will eventually benefit the end consumer as well. So it's creation of jobs, it's creation of a new whole industry, and the people who are studying there for that industry, they'll usually go out and work in some other country. So those graduates, those people, they get jobs. So they stay in their own country, work in their own country. So it's a nice, very nice two-way street. You just have to go and do basic research. Don't listen to YouTubers and Instagrammers and all those people who are just randomly ranting, oh, Africa is being exploited. There are some nice players who actually want Africa to prosper.
Oh, Majid.
No? No? See, there are some players who, see, it's a very basic
you're
logic.
glamorizing it too much.
No, I'll just give you a very basic logic. If Africa prospers, we're right next to it. You have to understand that. Obviously, Europe is far away. America is nearly there also. But you have to understand that there's always a trickle effect. There's a very interesting theory in business. I'll give you. So, for example, you have a beach and there's point A one corner and point B one corner. So, where would you open a shop? If you're the first person to open an ice cream shop on the beach, which point will you select? One corner, the other corner, or in the middle?
Probably.
If you're the first one.
To open an ice cream shop?
Yeah.
In a beach?
No one is there. Just randomly, say anything, any shop. You want to open a shop on a beach strip, point A, point B, and then the center is point C. Which spot would you choose?
I mean, probably in the middle, but
Right?
I get what
Because
point you're
equal
trying
distance.
to pose, but
Now, for example, I come in and I start a shop there, in the middle. Now, I take half of your business because the people coming from the right side will take it from me. The people
what's
coming,
your point?
The idea is that there is always trickle effect. That is why when you go outside, go to a place like a community center anywhere or at a commercial area, you'll always see 5 bank branches at the same place. So it's always nice to stay in the middle, at the middle, so everyone gets the benefit of it. Middle East is the middle of the world. So any region in the world which prospers eventually helps us. So that is why they have to be nice. They have to think about the people. They have to keep the business ties good. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem for us as well.
Yeah, I see what
So
you mean.
business logic makes sense. Vardh has a problem with it. She said, no, not everyone. But especially Middle East countries, I think they don't believe in a
No,
one-way
it's not that I
traffic
have
thing.
a problem. It's just I believe in the truth. And right now, the BCG group is being called out and they're telling the truth. They started telling the truth. So the CEO of Boston Consulting Group has issued an apology to employees and confirmed the company's withdrawal from a controversial aid initiative in Gaza. So the move follows internal backlash. They really got fired up on X, and international criticism over BCG's involvement in the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, an Israeli and U.S.-backed project that aimed to replace the UN's role in aid delivery. We discussed this a while ago. Yeah. They're basically talking about the role in the foundation that is basically ran by SRS, which is ran by McNally Capital, and they have very interesting ties. We'll tell you about it in the end.
And according to internal documents obtained by the Washington Post, BCG played a key role in shaping the foundation's strategy, logistics, and procurement. That's the firm, that's what they do. And this included managing private military contractors and overseeing residential aid compounds, raising concerns about militarization and transparency in humanitarian efforts.
So the project was widely rejected by the United Nations and major NGOs for bypassing international humanitarian frameworks. So violence near the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation distribution sites has further fueled controversy, with the Palestinian Ministry of Health reporting at least 30 deaths this week alone.
And leaked documents and staff concerns revealed the project risks contributing to what employees called population transfer and ethnic cleansing. In response, BCG has condemned the actions of two parties involved. Both have now been dismissed. The partner leading the Gaza work has been placed on administrative leave pending a formal review.
Now, as of May 30, BCG has terminated all involvement with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Meanwhile, the foundation itself said that it will continue operations, and evangelical figure Rev. Joni Moore has been appointed its new director, following the resignation of former executive Jake Wood. Basically, the way that I can best put this to you guys is that there's this foundation, Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. They're being ran by SRS, which is ran by a former CIA executive, which is being ran by McNally Capital, and basically
funded by McNally. Basically, they're an investment company.
I guess they're the parent company, but basically SRS, which runs this foundation, is also the same person who's providing arms that is stationed at the locations where the aid is being distributed from this foundation. And you also have Boston Group that is involved. Yeah. So, you know, it's good, though, that the CEO has apologized. I think it's, by the way, it takes
companies... He didn't apologize publicly. He apologized in an internal memo to his employees.
But I think that's a...
Sorry, we didn't know this was going to happen.
You know what, Majid? Honestly,
I think that's a really... apologize, right?
I think that's a really good thing that he actually came out and said, you know what, we're wrong about this. Yeah. We're sorry. Because imagine if he had done that way too late. Yeah. I mean, not only is the world going to protest against you, but you're going to have employees handing in their resignations, and there's no worse thing more than that.
Microsoft-like behavior from employees, where every Microsoft event now has one guy or girl standing up and being like, you're killing innocent humans in Gaza. Because we saw the Microsoft 50th anniversary, we saw the Microsoft another developer event. Someone is always standing up and shouting, and the event gets buried, and all those videos get all the limelight. So I think it's better that he did that, because he doesn't want to lose all the clients which want no connection with political correctness, or at least political leanings. So good to know. Today, to be honest, all the stories that we did, they have like a shimmer of hope that whatever is happening in Palestine and Gaza,
that is a beautiful way to put it.
The world is noticing. That's the best I can say. The world is noticing. People are moving back from doing business with them. The economy is suffering. Syria is reconstructing. So, to be honest, it gives us a pathway. It gives us
hopeful times. Yeah, they are definitely hopeful times. It gives us a
blueprint that one day when Palestine, Gaza, all this, whatever is happening finishes, the genocide that is happening at the hands of Israel, we will have an example from the region of reconstruction and all the recovery that can be made possible.
Yes, we will, and we have a really special interview coming up with Hussein Fakhri, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the Smashi Business Show. Today we're diving into the heart of Arab cinema's next chapter. Joining us is Hussein Fakhri, the Chief Commercial Officer of Katara Studios, one of the region's most exciting creative hubs. He's also the host of the Real Deal podcast, just launched in partnership with Media City Qatar. It's a powerful new series spotlighting the stories, voices, and visionaries shaping the future of Arab film. And the first episode is out now, and we have Hussein on Zoom. Hussein, it's lovely to have you here. How are you doing today?
Very well. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So just to start it off, if you could just tell the audience, what exactly is Katara Studios and what kind of work do you do there?
So Qatar Studios is a full service film and music studios where we create premium content across film, TV, music, and live events, and with the focus on Arabic language content. That's essentially what we do.
And, I want to know more about The Real Deal, the podcast that you guys just launched. What's the idea behind it?
It's very straightforward. We're entering a very exciting phase in the sort of film and TV industry in the region. We're seeing a huge demand for premium Arabic content, something which really hasn't happened before. We have a huge Arabic speaking audience. We don't have enough premium content that's produced for them. That is now changing. There's momentum gathering, and we thought this is the right time to really be talking to the people who are involved in creating this new wave of Arabic content and really looking at it from a business perspective. So, the financing, the sort of the business side, the industry establishment, and so on. So this was the reason for the podcast to talk to these people and understand what's happening. And we think it's going to be a really exciting couple of years.
That sounds really exciting. Can you tell me more about that content and the themes that it usually has?
Sure. I mean, so typically speaking, we produce a lot of content in the Arab world. The vast majority of it is created around Ramadan, the 30 episode sort of TV series where everybody's glued to their TVs. But we really haven't created Arabic content that has had the ability to travel. And we're really the last frontier in terms of Arabic content. Spanish content has traveled, Turkish content has traveled, Korean content has traveled, pretty much all the languages of the world. But us as Arabs, we really haven't had that breakthrough Arabic content, our what we refer to as our Squid Game moment. And that is what's happening right now, and it's going to be across themes and across genres, and it's agnostic in that respect. It doesn't really have to be a specific type of content, but just content in the Arabic language that will resonate beyond the borders of the Arab world.
And, I want you to tell me more about why is now the right time to launch a podcast like this, and how is it going to have that Squid Game moment that you're talking about?
Well, I mean, the timing of the podcast is because of what's happening in the wider industry, right? So, as I said, there's a huge sort of movement now to create better Arabic content, and so we're trying to capture that at the early stages. This is just the beginning of it, and so we thought the podcast would be timely because we give us an opportunity to really understand what's happening as that sort of industry progresses. In terms of that Squid Game moment, that really comes down to the producers and what they're able to create. And I think as more and more people sort of try to create this content, we're going to create a volume of projects, whether it be film or TV. And sooner or later, one of them is going to break through and create that sort of global hit for us.
And I want to know, who is The Real Deal for? Is it just for filmmakers, or is it for anyone passionate about Arab storytelling and cinema?
Great question. Actually, two main objectives for me, to be honest with you. One is for people who are in the industry who are interested in our part of the world. So people, whether they be from east or west, but sort of global film industries that want to come and either shoot here in the region, or want to co-produce in the region, or just interested in getting involved in Arabic content. So I want to give them a sort of an insight as to what's happening. And the second objective is for regional filmmakers, producers, and aspiring filmmakers and producers who want to get into the industry, who want to find out more about what's happening. So it's a really two-pronged approach.
Episode. Congratulations with George David is out now. And, he's such a respected voice in the regional industry, especially with his work at the Royal Film Commission. I want to know, why did you feel he was the right guest to kick things off with?
Well, I mean, George specifically really sort of was at the forefront of attracting international productions to the region. So, when the Royal Film Commission in Jordan started, there wasn't really anybody else in our region who was attracting international productions to come and shoot here. Historically, obviously, Lawrence of Arabia came to Jordan in the 60s, Star Wars came to Tunisia in the 70s. So we've had some sort of productions come, but never en masse, never sort of as a really kind of controlled industry where you're attracting multiple productions to come and shoot here. And so the Royal Film Commission was the first, they were the first people to do that. And then Abu Dhabi followed, and then other film commissions followed. So I thought it was important to really start at the beginning and get an understanding of the evolution of where we've come from. And that's why I thought that would be the best first episode to do.
Yeah, and that's really beautiful. And, I'm just curious, how did it feel being on the other side of the mic as the host rather than the creative lead behind the scenes?
To be honest with you, it was a quite an easy sort of transition. I have a lot of questions. I'm very passionate about this industry. I'm very optimistic about where we're going. So I feel it's a natural thing. I mean, I really believe in it, and the questions I ask are genuinely questions that go through my head all the time. So it was quite a natural thing. And let's see as the podcast goes on. But so far so good.
I'm just curious, what questions are going through your head and why do you really believe in it?
Well, look, I mean, being sort of an Arab who has lived in the West and grew up watching Western content, mostly Hollywood content. I've always sort of wanted to see stories from our perspective, from our part of the world, in our voice, and it's not something that we've managed to do. So it's something I truly believe in. And the questions are usually, why can't we do this? Why aren't we doing this? Why don't we have a version of this? They're the sort of constant questions, and those questions are manifesting themselves into actual reality right now. We're seeing more and more people telling stories from our part of the world. So it kind of gives us the encouragement to continue to ask these questions, because the more we ask, the more we seem, for me personally, the more I ask these questions, the more I see them sort of manifesting. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I'm just kind of curious about something, Hussein. We're seeing this, how streaming services are evolving in the Arab world. Do you think that they're contributing to amplifying Arabic voices, and how could they do this further?
Hugely. What the streaming services and streaming platforms generally have done for us, and for the world, is they've broken down language barriers, right? So people no longer have an issue with watching foreign language content with subtitles. Before streaming, it was a very difficult thing to do, but now you can put on Netflix or Amazon or whatever it may be and watch, a Korean show, a Turkish show, a Iranian show. It doesn't matter. As long as it's good content, you will watch it. So that's helped us enormously. So people now are now open to watching Arabic content. And in fact, data has shown us that there is a huge demand for Arabic content. People want to see more. They're fascinated by our culture. They're fascinated by what happens in our region. And so it allows us now to tell those stories with very sort of little barriers. Moving forward, I think they need to be commissioning more Arabic language shows. And we're seeing that. A lot of the big platforms are now shifting their attention to this part of the world. We saw the recent deal between OSN and Warner Brothers, for example. I mean, that's a huge sort of boost to Arabic content generally. Netflix obviously have been doing a good job, and from what we hear, the others are going to start their own Arabic slates. So exciting times.
I completely agree with you, and I feel like we really saw that with the launch of Dubai Bling and how the West was just completely obsessed with it because they just wanted a taste of the Arab world. And something that I know we're all curious about, what kind of guests or themes can we expect in the future episodes of The Real Deal?
Oh, you're going to be seeing all sorts. You're going to be seeing the investors. You're going to be seeing some of the platforms. You're going to be seeing the distributors. We're really going to sort of tackle it from every aspect of the industry, and to poke holes in it, to be honest with you, and see what's missing and what needs to be improved. So, we know that we have issues across the board. We have a bottleneck when it comes to writing and developing Arabic content. We're not very good at marketing our content. We have a distribution issue that we need to resolve. So we're going to be meeting with all of those people and decision makers in each of those relative verticals, and discussing where the gaps are and how we can fix them.
And I completely agree with you because I feel that there's so many good Arab shows and we just don't hear about them. So what I'm curious to really know is how do you think they can be marketed better?
Well, I mean, very straightforward. It starts with investment, right? So if you look at Western shows, for example, Western shows, spend anywhere from 50 to 100% of their production budget on marketing. So, for example, if it costs them $5 million to produce a film, they will spend $2 to $5 million on actually marketing that film. In our region, the average is about 10 to 15% if we're lucky of the production budget. So we don't spend as much. So first of all is the investment, and then we need to be smart about that investment and what the best way is to get to the right audience. It's a process. It's starting to get better, and I think it'll continue to improve. But that's one of the many sort of issues that we have.
And Arab cinema, it's been building some real momentum lately. How do you see Katara Studios playing a role in pushing that movement forward?
Well, look, Katara Studios by itself is not going to be able to do anything. We will contribute in our part. I mean, we're producing a slate of projects right now that we hope will have the ability to break through and have sort of universal appeal. But other producers need to be doing the same, which they are, and we need to have more collaboration. We need to be working together. We all have the same objective. We can compete later once we've sort of broken through and we've cracked it. Then we can compete against each other. But at this point, we need to collaborate. So Katara Studios is a very small piece of the puzzle. We're just doing our bit, but we're all about collaborating and co-producing with other partners.
And Media City Qatar, it's also backing this project. How has this beautiful partnership really helped? How has it really helped bring the real deal to life?
Well, I mean, they've been instrumental, to be honest with you. I approached Media City, and Media City have now created a Qatar Film Committee. So really looking at the film industry, they've been very active in attracting production houses and various companies around the film industry to come and set up in Doha. So it's kind of creating this business hub for us here, which has been really good. And yeah, I went to them with this idea, and let's talk about the industry and let's highlight this. And they were very receptive and sponsored and supported this project. So yeah, I mean, they've been great, to be honest.
That's amazing. And I want to ask for someone listening to the podcast right now, what would you say to convince them to open the first episode of The Real Deal?
Oh, do you mean to come and watch it as a viewer? Um, Very smart host asking some very smart questions. No, I mean, look, to be honest with you, if you're at all interested in Arabic content or interested in this industry, I think The Real Deal will kind of give you an understanding of what's happening and maybe open you up to opportunities that you didn't realize were available in the market. And to be honest with you, if you manage to achieve that, then that's a win.
That was Hussein Fakhri, the Chief Commercial Officer of Qatar Studios. You're definitely getting the real deal with the Real Deal podcast. I'm Warid Ahmed. This is Smashi Business Show, a Smashi Business production under the Augustus Media Podcast Network. Thank you so much for being here today, Hussein.
Thank you. It's been a